although not so weird, because some years ago, Iowa led the country, Illinois led the country in tornadoes. I think South Dakota did too in '03, in 2003. So it's not all that unusual for a northern state to lead the nation. And this year, it appears to be us. On that day, the 17th, we had 48 tornadoes in Minnesota, totally obliterating the previous record of 27. And we had 3 of them that were rated a 4, which is the most 4s since the Black Sunday Day of 1967, a day when Albert Lee and Owatonna and Waseca got clobbered. And in the entire region, we had 74 tornadoes on June 17th, which turns out to have been the second largest outbreak in the country during meteorological summer. And to us, we call June, July, August as meteorological summer. So the second biggest outbreak ever in the country. And here are all the tornadoes from North Dakota, and especially concentrated eastern North Dakota. All these little blips from eastern North Dakota, then down to a cluster in southeast Minnesota, around north and west of Albert Lee. And zooming in, here are all the tornadoes in that area around and west of and northeast of Albert Lee. So again, that graphic is on that poster if you're so inclined. But we had 8 tornadoes in Faribault County, 8 tornadoes in Freeborn County, and 5 tornadoes in Steele County. And just an amazing night. And just another listing, a map showing you the tornadoes in the state. This graphic here on the right shows you all the parent supercells that spawned all the different tornadoes and all the different hailstorms. Not every one of these supercells produced a tornado, but they all produced some sort of severe weather. So just an amazing day. This takes a little bit of explanation here. The number on the left side is the number of tornadoes, numbered tornado, from tornado number 1 in Minnesota to tornado number 48. Okay, so first one of the day, and now we break up the time of day into 15-minute increments. And so starting at about 15:15 to 15:30, this little column right here is that 15-minute time block between 15:15 and 15:30, and there was the first tornado. And so each column represents another 15 minutes going on. And the amazing thing about this is virtually every single block of time for about 5.5 hours, there was a tornado on the ground somewhere in Minnesota. Just amazing. Okay, well, we had a powerful jet stream that was moving in. This is at 7 a.m. That's at 7 p.m. The gray shows you the stronger winds of the jet stream. So here it is coming in to South Dakota, then it's moving into Minnesota. The graphic on the right, lots of lines, but all that I will point you to is low pressure in north central South Dakota near Modridge, and then a warm front looping eastward toward Ortonville and then down toward Albert Lee. And so tornadoes like warm fronts. Tornadoes tend to develop around warm fronts. And so just to the north and east of that warm front is where a lot of the tornadoes were. So just look at some of the photographs from that particular day. Here we have what looks, you might think is just a wall cloud at Buffalo, but you can start to see the debris swirling around at the ground there for the beginning of the Buffalo tornado. And then from Becker, looking north, this was the tornado that touched down near Clear Lake. And this was the complex of storms of Buffalo area where we thought it might be moving across Hennepin into Anoka County. Wound up not doing that, but that was a concern. And John was actually chasing that particular area. Okay, well here we are up in Malacca now. You know, again, so many areas of the state was getting severe weather. And this is a little story for the spotters to just be cautious and make sure what they report is really what they see. Most of the reports we got from Malacca were of just a wall cloud. But we did get one or two reports, typically public reports, one or two saying that there was a tornado on the ground in Malacca. Well, they were looking at this and assuming that this was on the ground. But in reality, it was just a low-hanging wall cloud. So, just a note of caution, if you're a spotter, make sure when you report something that you're reporting what you truly see rather than thinking what you're seeing. And then Wadena, here we have a tornado right here, or that was going to be the EF4 that roared into the west side of the city of Wadena. And then what happened down at Albert Lee in the upper left photograph is a great image where here's one tornado dissipating and a brand new one that's now on the ground. And what would happen another mile or two after this tornado had been on the ground, this one was going to dissipate, and then a brand new one formed a little bit northeast of this one. And we saw that time and time again. That's why there were so many tornadoes down in the Albert Lee area, is one would be on the ground, it would dissipate, and a brand new one would form just a little bit off to the east, and then that one would take off. And then the process would repeat and repeat and repeat. And this one here in the lower right, here's this big tornado, but can you see that little bitty guy right there? And that was what's called a satellite tornado. Just like satellites rotating around the Earth, here we have sometimes little tornadoes rotating around the bigger tornadoes. So that's actually two separate tornadoes. John did the damage survey on that one, and it was about a mile separated from the main damage of the big tornado. And now here we have this about a mile wide, if I recall correctly, right, John?
Yep.
Okay, a mile wide. Conger is a little bit west of Albert Lee. Hollandale, where this tornado is a little bit northeast of Albert Lee. And then some of the damage. This car got lofted about 50 feet into the basement. The school bus, that was up at Wadena, that got lofted in the air and thrown like a quarter mile or something like that. And here we have a farm just on the north edge of Hollandale. You can see the base right there. There was no basement. This was a good example where the kids, there was a family of four, mom and dad, and two kids, aged like 6 and 9 or something like that. This was a case where the kids saved their lives of themselves and their parents, because the tornado warning was out, and the kids and their parents were at home. The kids nagged the parents. We want to go to Grandpa's. We want to go to Grandpa's. We don't have a basement here. We have to go to Grandpa's house. And so finally the parents relented. They went off to Grandpa's about a mile away, and that's what was left of their house. And so there could have been 4 fatalities, if not for knowing about that. And again, I credit a lot of this to spotters and storm chasers relaying these reports of tornadoes. Those reports then go on to the TV and radio stations. The announcers say there's a tornado reported at such and such a place. People take shelter. And in this case, the kids got the parents to relent and go off to Grandpa's. A little bit of the radars. A lot of these individual, when you see individual red and yellow blotches, those are kind of like separate storms rather than a long line where they're all blobbed together. When you have individual storms like this, where there's some kind of separation between that storm and the next storm, then that storm that are separate are more prone to producing a tornado, and a whole bunch of these will end up producing tornadoes. And then a radar velocity image, Doppler velocity. Green or purple means toward the radar. Red means away from the radar. So right here we actually have a circulation of a parent thunderstorm, and here we have another one. And lo and behold, we have two tornadoes on the ground at the same time. But again, we're looking at this and we just are inferring whether or not there might be a tornado there. It's up to the spotters to let us know what really is going on. Okay. Well, anyway, what I'm going to do is actually curtail the presentation. I could go through a bunch more. June 25th, you can see a whole bunch more red circles. 12 more tornadoes that day, including Golden Valley, although that was wind damage. June 26th, 6 more tornadoes. Just out of curiosity, how many can, excuse me, how many would like to hazard a guess at how many tornadoes we had in the 7-county metro this past year? Any ideas?
25.
25. My voice is going, so I need to catch the root beer. Well, we of those 104, we had 6. Excuse me. We had 3 between Farmington and Northfield. There was one near just west of Newmarket, Elko. There was another one up by Forest Lake, southeast of Forest Lake. And then lastly, we had a weird tornado at 3 in the morning at Farmington. And that was just really strange. So,
Did you have anything on the tornado that went through South Minneapolis a year ago this past summer? It was a real small one, it just hit a few blocks.
Yes.
The guy who was hit left, unfortunately. He would love to have seen it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do you have anything on that?
Yeah, he showed it.
Yeah, I had that image from earlier, but I don't have damage pictures from that particular tornado.
Okay. What did you call that, South Minneapolis?
Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, a bunch more storms. I won't go through that because the big day was really June 17th, and I want to allow at least a few minutes of time for any questions and answers.
Okay.
So yeah, might as well put the lights on.
I have a question.
But what I will do is zoom through this and put that back up. So if you wish to go to our website or send me an email, give a phone. One thing that I will say, actually one thing, but 2 kind of ideas. If anybody has any interest in helping as a net control operator, please, maybe talk to Mike. He doesn't know that I was going to say that, but if you have any interest in helping with that as a net control operator, talk to Mike. Or you saw that we need utilize amateur radio operators at our office. If you have an interest in coming to the weather office and helping take in reports from not just the Twin Cities, but also Mankato, St. Cloud, Hutchinson, Menominee, Mora, all sorts of areas. If you have an interest in helping out by coming to our office and taking some of those reports, talk to John. John is the coordinator for that. So if you have any interest in that, either talk to Mike locally or for Chanhassen, talk to John. Okay? So again, appreciate all the help and information that you as spotters have provided over the years, because it does save lives. I'm totally convinced of that. It really does save lives.
I want to thank you. This was fascinating. So many people that should have been here tonight were not. And I'm sorry they weren't because they would have learned a lot. I learned more tonight than I did all the Skyward classes I've ever taken. It was terrific. I have a question for you.
Sure.